All right, let's get into it.
If Australia had more to do with Operation High Jump than anyone has ever cared to investigate, history dictates that the Nazi regime, but more specifically the SS, they had the biggest fascination with the occult. And when the Nazis were out in Antarctica, they made a territory land claim known as New Schwabenland. Publicly, Operation High Jump was said to be nothing more than a training exercise, but then eventually it came out that no, Operation High Jump, officially, it was actually to claim land in Antarctica. And then when you realise at this point, Australia has already conducted the biggest land grab in Antarctica, the AAT, the Australian Antarctic Territory, this was one of the first breadcrumbs that made me start asking the question, is Australia involved more with Operation High Jump than we ever knew? My question is this: what happens if something was found out in the snow and it needed to be transported to the closest friendly continent there is? What happens if something from Antarctica was brought into Australia and stored?
Actually, that's not a bad theory, but I kind of think the opposite. What if there was something so big and scary in Australia that they had to dump it in Antarctica? But overall, it's still a really interesting theory.
There is a new paradigm in robotics in which researchers are trying to simulate the mind of a child rather than the mind of an adult. The idea was partly inspired by Alan Turing. I mean, the researchers quoted him right in their paper. He was a mathematician and is considered one of the godfathers of modern-day computing. I mean, he believed a lot of things, including that AI would eventually become self-referential. Once it started reproducing itself, it would then supersede humanity. Either way, children learn much differently than adults, and everything that we build for our way of understanding the world was built in childhood, and that is something that you can recreate in a robot. Humans are not born understanding everything about the world around us. There are some things like instincts that we have to have. We do need to know how to breathe, and we are born knowing how to grasp. And there's some evidence that we also know how to hold our breath and can then be taught how to swim. But we have to interact with the world, try and fail in order to learn it. And this is a new principle in teaching robots how to exist. And these researchers used that principle. They just gave AI a set of rules so they could observe how the world works and then interact with it. They could try to make a prediction about what would happen and then fail to do so through trial and error. They had to learn how to rotate the pieces and how they fit together, and they would start to learn the logic of what was going to happen if they took an action. The result is less steps over time, so the robots really did improve, but this demonstrates an understanding of how the world works. These concepts are called world models, in which AI observes the world around them, develops rules, and can then make predictions for how the world should behave, and this is something that is considered necessary for embodied AI. There's a lot of conversation about what the world means to an AI that is solely living in a digital world versus an AI that is embodied. How different is reality from imagination? And AI may well need an imagination. How do you do that? Well, you're going to have to give the AI experiences in the world. They're going to have trial and error, and they're going to have to understand things the hard way. Because learning is not supposed to be easy. Either way, as the advancements come, I will keep you up to date.
With AI, I do understand why there's people that want it to be on the level of a human, but I really just do not think that that's necessary. Of course, if it has the same mindset as a human being, it has empathy and all of these emotions, and or at least a way to understand them, yes, it will adapt and work in that environment more efficiently. But I just think that it needs to be, like I said previously in an older video, kind of like a automation shop for manufacturing cars. The robots that they have building those cars as of currently, it's probably going to change, but as of right now, it is just an arm that's programmed to assemble a vehicle in one way. It doesn't have the ability to think on its own, it just does what it's programmed to do. Why can't robots be like that? Or like back in the original Roombas days, you know, those little vacuum cleaners that are round and just vacuum the floor on their own? When they first came out, they had a feature that allowed the sensors to map walls completely offline, and it knew where there were certain borders because you could put these little digital gates up to let it know, hey, do not pass this zone. And it was also smart enough to know when it was approaching staircases so that it wouldn't fall. And if it ever ran over any cords, it would stop. There's no AI in that robot to make it do those things. It's a program that says, hey, once you reach a certain pressure level or a sensor level, you do this. And that's what I think every day-to-day robot should be like. Sorry, I'll stop there because I'm going on a rant. But as always, please feel free to share your thoughts and opinions.
I think they're putting something in the water or taking something out of the water. I don't know. There's some kind of conspiracy going on. Because tell me why. We genuinely did not used to drink this much water. And if you go somewhere where there's a lot of old people, they don't have water bottles. And we didn't used to back in the day. As a kid, it was rare that you had a reusable water bottle that you'd take to school. And if you did, you usually forgot it at home and you would just get up and like take a sip out of the drinking fountain once in a while. Which is wild because I would never drink out of one of those now. Remember, you would go to the park knowing that you're about to run around in the sun for hours and you usually didn't even bring a water bottle. You would literally drink out of the gross hot water fountain at the park and you would avoid it because it was gross and hot. So you just like didn't really drink much water. What happened? Because now we all have a big water bottle that we carry around everywhere and we're drinking from it all day every day and we're still thirsty. And this is coming from someone who drinks like higher quality water. Like I make sure I have my electrolytes and yet I still feel thirsty all the time. What is going on?
I hear a lot of people talk about this. Honestly, my water drinking habits have not changed since I was a kid. I mean, everyone in my family has always drank water. Is it drank or drunk? Okay, so looking it up in this action, it would be a past action, so we drank a lot of water. And I still do drink a lot of water. And I mean, when I worked construction, we carried a big old Gatorade canister full of ice cold water all the time, and that was per person, and we drank that thing slam empty. But then I do talk to a lot of people, more so online. I've never really talked to too many people in person, but a lot of the people that I do talk to online say, yeah, I've barely ever drank water. That's more of a new age thing. So let me know in the comments, is drinking water like people are now more of a new thing, or is that something that you've always also experienced? Because like I said, for me, this has always been a thing. Hey, if you haven't done so already, and if you're enjoying the show, give it a like. And if you're new to the channel, subscribe. I upload a video like this Monday through Friday, early in the morning. And for everyone that's made it this far, thank you so much for supporting the channel.
Here's more things I want to know. I want to know about gifted and talented education, otherwise known as the GATE program. Now, the GATE program was a form of teaching designed for students to be identified as academically exceptional. Guess I wasn't in the mix. There were two main methods of the GATE program. The first was enrichment. It was deeper material, but given at the same pace as other peers. And then there was acceleration, moving faster through the curriculum. Lita Hollingworth started her research on gifted children in the early 1900s, making her one of the first people to study and advocate for children and teaching these gifted students that they wanted to find. But this predates the GATE program. The Cold War came along and spurred more interest in this kind of program. The Soviets launched Sputnik in 1957, which caused a surge of Americans to worry that their children were falling behind in school and not smart enough. This pushed the gifted education programs higher on the national agenda. But were they also sorting kids out to see who maybe had special powers? Were they testing them in ways that they weren't talking about? It's giving Stranger Things in a way. In California specifically, Assembly Bill 1040 was passed in 1980, which established gifted and talented education, or the GATE program. And this let schools define their own ideas and criteria to expand the services to students. With academic ability, leadership, visual and performing arts, I still never got an invite, and creativity. The students were identified through IQ testing, where students were ranked between the very superior range, falling into gifted and genius. That's why I wasn't a part of it. And the criteria varied from state to state. The GATE program spread widely through the United States between the 80s and 90s. The GATE students attended normal public schools like other students, but some of them would be siphoned off to special classes to go more in depth, to cover more material, and move at a faster pace than the other students. This is giving a very mellow version of an MK Ultra vibe, or a Montauk program, which is what they based Stranger Things off of. But I was lucky enough to meet somebody from TikTok who was in the GATE program. We went for a walk, we had a smoothie, we talked about histories and mysteries and star forts and other cool stuff, and then she subtly said, I was in the GATE program. And I was like, what? My new friend told me that during her time in this program, things certainly felt a bit off, and that she was questioning a lot of things while she was in it. It sort of felt like a strange out-of-body experience at times. They would come around to the classes with these carts, which had a cup with a pink drink in it that they would all drink. To me, that feels like a cup of mind control, but I don't know. She said at her school there were 70s style trailers that were pulled up that they would go into to do these testing and educational programs. They would put on headphones headphones and listened to strange tones as they sat in the room. She said she specifically remembers a teacher that would hover over her table and flip through her notebook, just looking at what she was writing down and scrutinizing her. She said she would have a lot of dreams with strange symbolism in them. The envelope test was always something she found interesting and probably a bit odd, because they'd hold up an envelope and they had to guess what was in it. So they had to guess and then write it down and show them what they thought was in the envelope. Sounds like a little bit of a telekinesis vibe to me. One of the teachers told her she had to go find somebody in the admin building. She'd never been in this building, and they didn't tell her who she had to go see. She said she went walking around, went into the admin building, and she remembered being intimidated walking in because she's a little kid walking into the administration building with nobody with her. And she walked up the stairs, and all of a sudden there was a lady who just said, "I've been waiting for you," and gave her an envelope. She doesn't remember what was in the envelope or what it was. Her memories are very interesting and very thought-provoking, because again, this feels like a little bit of teaching that kind of leans into an MK Ultra mind control, mind experiment, mind expansion vibe, and I could be very wrong. That's what it feels like. I'm sure her memories are very vivid in some ways and hard in others, because it was a strange experience, and only one that she can understand, and other people that have been in the program. My friend is a lovely person. Obviously, she's done well in her life. The name has changed in other locations as well, so while people might be thinking and looking for the GATE program, there's also other programs called TAG, Advanced Learning, and things like that, but it's essentially the same. But what I want to know, since this started in the early 1900s, right when the orphan trains were spreading across America and kids were being pushed into orphanages, schools, and other programs, could they have been pulling kids out of these situations to test them to see if any were moldable, controllable, and had gifted intelligence beyond the others in the group, and then siphoned off to take a different route than the other kids that were on the orphan train? I don't know. But I want to know. I want to know what that pink drink was about. But what I really want to know, and I know everybody in the world wants to know, is who on that list is going to jail first in America.
GATE program stories always fascinate me. Nobody believes it when I say it online, but hey, it's whatever. I believe it. I was a part of it. I just don't remember most of it, or really any of it, but I've told this story before. I have been in the GATE program as a kid. I remember the white trailers. There was 5 of them lined up in school, and I remember us kids being taken to those trailers. And I remember going up the little wooden steps that they had, and I remember the door opening, and I remember seeing desks inside, but I do not remember what happened in those buildings. The only faint memory, and I've always said this, I'm not even certain if this took place in one of those buildings, but the only memory that comes to mind when I'm thinking of the GATE program is I was under my desk and I remember a lady yelling my name to get from under the desk. That's all I remember. Now, also in school, we did have a pink drink that we had to swish in our mouth. This was not a part of the GATE program, at least not that I remember correctly of. But there was a pink drink that we swished in our mouth and we had to spit out, and it would show the tartar that we had in our mouth for us to brush our teeth and clean them properly. I don't know if that's the same pink drink, but that is what we had to do in school as well. But I am always fascinated by GATE program stories from people that leave them in the comments, so please feel free to share yours if you are also a part of it, or even if you knew anyone that was a part of it. I really enjoy reading these stories because it does intrigue me as to what was going on, and it almost seems like everyone had a similar experience going through this program. I just wish that I could remember mine. So if you have your own, please feel free to share.
What comes to mind when you watch this? That was posted by the official White House X account. I am genuinely curious what you take away from it. Let me know in the comments. Don't be shy.
First of all, if there was any kind of weird music playing, I probably took out the original audio because it's like a Rick and Morty soundtrack or a Doctor Who soundtrack, and I didn't want to get copyrighted. So all the background music that you heard more than likely was my own voice. I haven't done it yet, but editing is to come, so sorry if it was really bad. But as far as what I'm thinking about this, it's a bit silly, and I honestly, in a way, I can't believe that the official White House account is posting videos like this. Now, is there anything wrong with the video? Not necessarily. A lot of people are throwing conspiracies at this one, and rightfully so. There's a lot of people saying, well, this is a sign that the information is about to be fully disclosed and the lid's about to come off. Which, hey, I hope that is the case. But seeing what came of aliens.gov, my hopes aren't very high. Not for anything that I want to hear about as far as extraterrestrials, aliens, or anything like that anyways. I really think that this was just a video for the people in the conspiracy realm to give them something to talk about. That's what I kind of feel like this video is for. Let me know what you guys think it's for, but it's funny, but it is kind of crazy that the official White House account is uploading videos like this, and this is not the only video the official account has uploaded that's a little off the wall. They have a lot going on that account. If you've never seen it, you might want to check it out because there's some crazy stuff going on.
Let's talk about how evil has a hive mind. This is a spiritual phenomenon that I have been noticing, and a lot of my customers who come to me also have said the same thing. It's like they operate through a hive mind. And if you have personally gone through this, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So for example, if you walk into a room, right, there are 100 people in the room, hypothetical. You carry life force energy within yourself. So you either have a very active heart chakra or sacral chakra. These are life force energies connected to God. Everybody in the room that is evil, which is typically, unfortunately, at least 25% of people in the room, they're going to literally look at you, single you out, and for some reason dislike you. So people have experienced this in mostly their career. For example, onboarding onto a new team at a new company, and you're there for like a couple of months, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, the manager hates you. There are rumors about you that are completely untrue. Same thing with friend groups. You get singled out. They're being fake with you. Why does evil have a hive mind? I'm going to go into more esoteric things, so if you are not up for it, just click off this video. But I believe, through my personal research and through what I've seen, possessions happen very subtly. Now, this is why there is a hive mind. It's because it's a possession. This is why in religious texts, especially Western ones like the Bible, Satan, or Lucifer, same thing, says, I am legion. How can one person be legion? Legion is a lot. It's like a swarm of flies. There are a lot of them. People who have given in to their temptations, to the seven sins, if you will, to just the lower energies, aka greed, envy. It always starts with envy and greed. Lust, temptation, wrath, all of these things. They have, knowingly or unknowingly, some of these evil people are Satanists. You just look at the political stage of our world. They've signed a contract saying, I have the stamp of so-and-so demon on me. And these demonic entities, if you have seen a possession, you will know they work through the person, and it's almost as if the person doesn't really have that much of autonomy anymore. They're conscious, but they're not. Like, they see what they're doing, but it's almost like this irresistible urge to continue to do narcissistic things, heinous acts of hatred, violence, envy. So for example, if I'm a person that has been severely corrupted, my heart space is terrible. It's like black tar. I will likely have these three principality demons stamping my energy. Moloch, Baal, Beelzebub. For some reason, it's always them. And these principality demons, they are so powerful. They kind of have this overarching web. This is why people who go through demonic possession say they often see a spider weaving a web. They have this web that traps the people that resonate with their demonic energy. So this is how possessions happen. So you become a part of the hive mind, the web. This is why if you are a person that has been victimized by this kind of situation, these people all think the same about you. They all believe the same kind of lies about you. And for some reason, they will always group together just to go against you. And you will know if it's something supernatural when they know things about you they shouldn't. So this is the power of demonic entities. They know how to read energy, right? The average person really doesn't know how to read energy too well. So they'll know your weaknesses. They know how to trigger you without even having to say, you having to say a word to them. So if you feel targeted by them, esoterically speaking, I'm not going to talk about psychology or science, esoterically speaking, I believe you're not crazy. because they do operate from a hive mind.
That's a very interesting way of looking at it. The way I normally look at it is if there's someone that has a disagreement and there's other people that already don't like you and there's someone that's against you, they're just automatically going to jump on board, whether it's possession or not. Hey, maybe that is the case. It's just a matter of opinion and judgment, I feel like, at most points, and the feeling of that other person that may be targeting you or attacking you along with the other person. They may just want to fit in with the majority of the crowd, even if they don't agree with what's going on. They just feel like they fit in better by picking on the other guy that's getting picked on. And if you have friends that are like that, I would be willing to say that they're not really your friends. They're more than likely just pretending, or they're using you or manipulating you for their own benefits. Because there should be nobody that would be considered a friend that would go against you. They may sit you down and be like, hey, I don't agree with this, or hey, this is something that I think most people aren't in agreement with, but to simply attack you, not real good friends.
I try to explain some of these things to give people freedom from this. Like, I help people with schizophrenia, like, get free from schizophrenia, which is not something most people don't know about schizophrenic people. Is they're highly, I guess what you would say, prophetic. They know stuff. And unfortunately for people that are dealing with this, what we deem schizophrenia, they become emboldened by their ability to know stuff. And it invites in this sort of spirit of pride that comes into them. And then when this pride spirit comes into them, it gives them this feeling of, oh, I have the answers, I know, I understand. And then the demons will then understand. And then the demons will then give them supernatural knowledge and understanding. You can talk to like a random schizophrenic person on the street that are like homeless. And if you ask them a question, a lot of times they'll know the answer. Like if you ask them something about your life, they'll just spit it out their mouth. And it's really like, people don't talk to these people. You're afraid to a lot of times, but like they'll know stuff, dude. Literally, I've walked by I was with a friend who was dealing with a lying situation, walked by a homeless person on the street, and the schizophrenic person, this is just recently, yells out to my friend and goes, "You're a liar," and starts saying stuff about him. And he's just like, and then like afterwards he was just like, "Bro, you're right. They know stuff." Like, I'm like, "I told you, bro." Like, it's pretty funny, actually.
See, so we talk about like a homeless person, right? Or a person that's on drugs.
Yeah.
So then I wonder, I guess I'm playing like teeter-totting between the two, which is, are they demonically possessed because of the drugs, or are they just possessed because of they're just possessed?
Well, there's a lot to this thing. And what I'll say is that, like, okay, so like the root word for demon is daemon. Daemon means the ones that know. So demons know stuff, all right? And it's a common perspective of knowing things that a demon has. So a lot of witches will be like, "Oh, I know stuff." They can know things about you. They might give you some knowledge and thing, and you're like, "Whoa, what the heck? How'd they know that? How'd they know that?" And suddenly you believe them, and you start giving them your faith rather than giving your faith to the Lord. You know? And so like what you end up doing is it ends up, it's a perversion that opens you up to all kinds of demonic influence. But basically, daemon is the ones that know. So the word genius actually comes from genie, which comes from the word jinn, which is the Arabic word for demon, essentially. Jinn and genius. Original genius was somebody that had a jinn or a demon following them around, giving them supernatural knowledge and understanding.
I've only known of one schizophrenic person in my life, like actually in person, and they are severely schizophrenic to the point where they actually see aliens and demons, and they think that these entities are going to take them and shove them into animals like chickens and cows. They are deathly afraid of these entities, and they start flipping out whenever they see them. I've not talked to him in a very long time. He was an older man. To be honest, I'm not even certain if he's still around. But that was very serious, and I'm talking about very scary. When he said that he's seen these things and he start throwing his clothes off and running around and acting as if these entities were trying to take him away, that was a very eye-opening moment as to what's going on here. Is there literally some mental disability or some serious mental damage going on, or is there some other realm that we cannot perceive that these people can? Because he was very serious about it. But again, that could also come with mental illness. And unless you experience it yourself, you really don't know, and if you do experience it yourself, do you still know? It's a very scary thing seeing someone go through schizophrenia like that, and I know there's different layers and levels to schizophrenia to where it's not that extreme, but for the people that go through it that extreme, I'm so sorry that you have to go through something like that. But let me know in the comments, do you think that schizophrenia is a possible form of possession, or do you think it actually is a mental disorder?
Why do so many people go missing in our national parks? There's a theory about these places called containment theory, and it claims that America's national parks weren't created only to protect the wilderness from us, but they may have also been created to contain something that lurks inside. Between 2018 and 2023, almost 1,200 people have been reported missing from national parks. Most of these people were eventually found, but a number of them never came home. Think about what lies within many of these parks: isolated mountain ranges, enormous cave systems, dense forests, volcanic regions, and millions of acres where someone could disappear without a trace under normal circumstances. But there are many cases out there where it makes no sense how somebody disappeared. And a lot of these cases have similar hallmarks, like turning a bend on a trail and just vanishing. Massive search efforts will happen and either nothing is found, or it's just an article of clothing or shoes being found way too far away from where that person went missing, or their shirt is neatly folded on a log, or something of theirs was found up on a mountainside that would be almost impossible to get to. And sometimes when remains are found, they show up in an area that was already searched several times. Now, the idea, according to this theory, is that national parks might double as containment zones, but containing what? The theory connects these places to unexplained disappearances, strange lights, UFO sightings, cryptid encounters, and other high strangeness activity that the government might even know what's going on secretly about this. Some even think that there could be an agreement with whoever or whatever occupies these regions. Something like, we won't push our civilization into your territory, but anyone who enters there becomes an acceptable risk to go missing. Think about people like Teddy Roosevelt. He was once a president in the early 1900s, a conservationist, avid outdoorsman who protected enormous areas of wilderness and helped pave the way for the National Modern Park System. He even has an account of a creature that sounds a lot like a Bigfoot. So did he know something that we don't, and that's why he pushed for certain areas of our country to be contained and preserved? And there's the idea that some of these regions may be something called a window area, or portals, vortexes, locations where paranormal and high strangeness activity occurs more frequently. We even have NASA confirming that portals exist out in space, so why couldn't they exist here on Earth? And maybe the geology itself is responsible. Many mountain ranges in these parks contain quartz-rich rock, and did you know that quartz under intense pressure, like a mountain pressing down on it, can produce an electrical charge through something called the piezoelectric effect? Some think this phenomena could generate unusual electromagnetic activity, causing things like disorientation, strange lights, possibly even opening gateways or portals into some other place. Now, this and the missing 411 phenomenon is a whole rabbit hole to dig down into. So, are these containment zones real? What do you think's going on here?
Containment zones is an interesting theory. I've always had the theory that, a lot of national parks being so large, they could be trafficking zones where there's criminal organizations that kind of lurk within them fields and they pick and choose who they want to take. That's more or less what I actually think happens in national parks or zones like that. But it's an interesting concept to have cryptids as well. But on a more realistic side of things, trafficking seems more likely in my opinion. And something else to look at is with all these flock cameras, would it be a bad thing if they put flock cameras in these national parks for the safety of people that go missing? Why don't we do that? Why is it always just on main roads and places near residential areas, when it would be so much more beneficial to have cameras in a national park to keep people safe and to keep people from being trafficked or lost? It makes way more sense, in my opinion, to have like cameras like the flock cameras and systems like that, not necessarily in residential areas. I understand the safety behind them. I do not necessarily agree with them because of privacy reasons, but I could also see the utilization of them being in like national forests.
A huge, massive earthquake hit Japan today. There's been a lot of damage. Lives have been lost, and more information keeps coming in. That earthquake here in southern Japan happened early this morning and registered anywhere between a 6.8 to a 7.2 magnitude, which is massive. And it also has caused a tsunami warning. Yeah, because of where it hit, a tsunami is possible. Now, according to the mainstream news sources themselves, there are still tremors going on in that region of Japan right now. And the damage has been catastrophic, including a shopping mall collapsed. Yeah, a shopping mall collapsed, with confirmation that multiple, if not dozens of people have passed away. Now, even in those mainstream news articles, they talk about this earthquake being associated with the Ring of Fire, a group of dormant and active volcanoes that start in South America, go all the way up through North America, over to Russia, past China and Japan, and as far south as Australia. And in the past year or two, there have been a lot of earthquakes on the Ring of Fire. But for right now, the focus should be on this major, massive earthquake that just hit Japan.
That is absolutely devastating, and for everyone that's going through this earthquake, I am so sorry for your loss and your hardships, and I only wish the best for you going forward. Thoughts and prayers, because this is nasty looking.
But what do they say in 1884 about not childbirth, but mental attitude? 1884, do the math, 140 some odd years ago. And this book, they don't make them anymore. You'd be hard-pressed to find one for under $7,000. I don't know how much they are. I inherited it, though. So listen. And by the way, everything you do counts. A lot of people think only some stuff they do counts. Every single thing that you do counts. If you wake up early, you read a book, you go to an audio program, you research, you're listening to podcasts, you're gaining information. Or if you're watching TV, eating potato chips on the couch all night, every day, lazy slovenliness, it all counts. Some of it counts to the positive side. Some of it counts to the other side of your ledger. Okay? So in life, it all counts. Everything you do counts. Think about what you're doing and if it counts to the good side or the bad side. Seriously. So, if you take on the actions and bearing of a clown, your mind will almost immediately gravitate towards your bearing. If, on the other hand, you draw in the chin, expand the chest, and attempt to look the part of a successful businessman or woman, it didn't say or woman, this is 1884, but I just threw that in there. Your mind will immediately respond to the auto-suggestion. This is also soundingly like Think and Grow Rich, if you read Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. A man's mental attitude determines his dress and appearance, his environment, and his success. I cannot emphasize this thought too vigorously. A man's personality does not come by accident. It is a natural gift, just as his mind and muscle are natural gifts, and like them, it must be cultivated. Develop it by eliminating everything that is bad and cultivating everything that is good. It's true, man. You know what's good and bad when you wake up and you do something all day and you have 24 hours in a day like we all have. What do you do during that day? Is it good or bad? Because we all know we have an inner compass, don't we? I'll keep reading this book and I'll fill you in more, but let's keep a positive attitude and do positive things and get her friggin' going.
A very interesting book. I mean, honestly, everything, and I've already seen a few of these videos. He's been going through quite a bit of it. I've just shown a couple of the videos. But everything that he's been reading in this book is basically the premise of how I live my life and how I was taught to live my life. I mean, I was also raised by older people, so that's probably the reason why. It actually seems like a pretty interesting book. I would actually like to read a little bit more into it just to see what all it has to say. But so far, it's not really anything more different than what I was taught growing up. Let me know what you guys think.
Outside of somebody becoming Paul Mahdi Atreides himself, Duke of Arrakis, or Harry James Potter in possession of the Deathly Hallows, or Neo realizing that he can control the Matrix, we're in a really bad situation that's probably not going to get better. There have been many phases to this global war against humanity for the human soul, and at every phase, we had several options and tools we could have been utilizing. And at every phase of that war, I tried to explain to people what those tools were and how we could use them. Unfortunately, we never reached a critical mass of people knowing what they had as leverage against the powers that be. And after 7.5 years of this war, I realized that there's not much left we can do, and there is such a small percentage of the population that even understands what's happening that we don't have the manpower to overturn whatever's happening. I do believe there's a way to become something like a Neo or a Paul Atreides or a Harry Potter. I believe there is a way for an individual to tap into supernatural powers and make something really special happen here. And I also believe that many people could do this. It wouldn't just have to be one. It would just be one person to begin with. This is our final trump card, if there is one. I deeply believe that the very nature of this reality is something akin to a dream. And if someone were able to figure out how to lucid dream in reality and then show other people how to do that, we might be able to save the world.
Now, this video does go on for an additional 7 minutes, so I'm not going to play the whole thing. I'm just going to stop it here. I did watch through the rest of it, and it does have some very touchy topics, but if you guys are interested, please check out this channel. But overall, to his point of people having an ability, but it hasn't been discovered yet, and if they discover it, they could teach other people. That's a very good idea, but the only reason why I do not necessarily believe that we have this superpower within us is because it would have been discovered by now. There would be evidence of it by now, and people would share this information if it was real. If there was people actually able to become superhuman, if you will. Now, of course, there's the theory of, the calcification of our pineal gland and how that could limit our powers if we have any. And that's a really good theory as well. But still, I do believe if there was truly an ability to be had, someone would have it and it would be shared. And it would be very, very obvious that it's real and it's true. And now also there could be people out there that do have these powers and the government's getting them before the information gets out. That's also a good possibility. But even if that's the case and these people have powers, what type of powers are we talking about here that's to the point where a government can obtain this person and capture them? Are they able to capture these people because the powers just aren't those type of powers that keeps them from easily being caught? Or is it just because these people learn these powers and they don't know how to fully use them yet? And that's why they got caught. I really think that if someone was to unlock some kind of superpower that would actually change the world, it would get shared so fast and people would pick up on it so quickly because it is a change that is needed. And once the first sign of change happening, everyone would be on board with it. I do hope that maybe one day someone will unlock this ability, but I'm really doubtful that it will, because that's just not how it works in reality. But I'll keep an open mind for it. And I would also like to know on your end, if there was this power to be had, what would it be exactly? What would this super ability, the superpower be that would change the world? What could that be and what would it look like? So please feel free to share your thoughts and opinions on that one in the comments. That's actually a fun one to think about.
Me siento feliz. Me siento saludable. Soy el humano.
Because I'm pretty much the master of all languages and I don't need any kind of translation, I know he said I feel happy, I feel healthy, I'm a human being. So just in case anyone was struggling with what he was saying, that's what he was saying. And same here, man. Same here. Alright guys, I'm gonna go ahead and end today's video. As always, I want to thank you guys for watching these clips with me. As usual, I feel happy, I feel healthy, I'm doing my best. And if today's your birthday, happy birthday. And if not, have a good day anyways.